Shadow, and why do you think so many people voted for the Lib Dems this time round?
Well, I think a mixture of reasons. I think positive reasons. We're very committed to local government. We do it well. We campaigned intensively over a period of months. That was all part of it. It was disillusionment with the government. It was amongst people who were very strongly about remaining in the European Union. They got behind us too. So it was a mixture of reasons. We did very well in some of the parts of the south of England that are very committed to remain, but we also did very well in Somerset and Devon, where they have a different view. And as you've just heard, we had big swings in places like Sunderland and Barnsley. So it was quite a deep process, and it showed that our party is now fully recovered and a very strong force in British politics.
It's interesting, as you say, that the Lib Dems appeared to do well in places where there were strong Remains votes, but also actually in places where the majority of people voted to leave the EU. Just wonder if you think that means that some of the vote, at least, was more of a protest vote, really just a chance to give the two main parties a kicking.
Well, there is an element of that, and I'm perfectly realistic that that was one of the factors at play. But, you know, if you take a place like Sunderland, which was very heavily Leave, it didn't just come out of a protest vote. We've worked there for years. We've got a team of dedicated people who have gradually won their way onto the council, have done good work there, and have built on it. And so, yes, there was an element of a protest vote, but there was much more than that. It was very much a positive vote for Liberal Democrat candidates, and that is going to carry it forward, I think, into the European elections we'll have in a couple of weeks' time.
Well, let's talk about the European elections, shall we? Because you're going to have a bit more competition there, aren't you, for the chance to give the two parties a kicking. The Brexit Party are going to be standing. We heard Nigel Farage earlier on the programme. Also, Change UK. What would be a good result for the Lib Dems?
Well, a good result would be a significant improvement on what we had last time, which was not a very good outcome. Yeah, well, indeed, yes. I mean, one of the problems with these European elections is, as you've implied, the Remain vote is fragmented between three Remain parties. I think that's unfortunate. We would have preferred to have worked together, but that's not happened. So I think what is important for us is that the Remain voters in the country, the people who are committed to remaining in the European Union, who want to press ahead with a people's vote, that those people get behind us, and we send then a very strong message, not just to the Conservatives and Labour Party, but also to Nigel Farage, that he's up against a very formidable adversary here.
It's interesting to hear you say that you think it's unfortunate that the Remain parties weren't working closer together. Change UK were pretty clear that they didn't want to work too closely with the Lib Dems, perhaps thinking that you would tarnish their image. I just wonder if they've had a change of heart after the local election results. Has anyone been calling you up from Change UK?
Well, it's a bit late now. The nominations have been submitted. I mean, if that was the calculation, then it was clearly wrong, because, you know, we are a very positive force. But I say there's no point, I think, just going over who said what to whom and why we got where we are. We are now on the ballot paper with the other Remain parties, but our fire is going to be directed at Nigel Farage and the Brexit parties, and at the terrible muddle and the panic which we're now getting from the Conservative and Labour parties. That's the opposition. We're not aiming fire at people who are in the same position as we are.
There's been a bit of fire aimed at you, though. I mean, Chris Leslie, for example, of the Change UK, has said previously the Lib Dems have fallen below a critical mass, that you have baggage, that you have a clear trust issue. Heidi Allen has said that her party was the natural home with the Remain alliance. Do you think they're perhaps underestimated how difficult it is to be one of the smaller parties in UK politics?
Well, those remarks are obviously terribly wide of the mark. But I like the people concerned. I don't want to get into a unnecessary spat with them. I think when these elections are over, we're going to have to work together and grow up and, you know, behave in adult politics. I think that's what the public expects us to do, rather than exchanging snide comments. You know, we've clearly done extremely well in these elections. We're back as a major force. I think that will carry over into the European elections. And then we'll work with other people who share our views on Europe and our values more generally, and really trying to change British politics in a fundamental way, because I'm afraid the Tory party and the Labour Party have now become so discredited. People are looking for some genuine alternative, and we will be at the core of that.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it feels as if the last general election was almost like dominated by two-party politics. Labour and the Conservative Party got more than 80% of the vote between them. Do you think what we're starting to see now is the beginning of a splintering of that dominance?
Well, I think in retrospect, it's very clear that 2017 was an anomaly. It was unusual. It was conducted in the aftermath of the referendum. It created, I think, a false sense that the two-party system was being reconstructed. It's been gradually dissolving over the last couple of decades or so. And I think it's now very, very clear that British politics is now going to have to be remade. I mean, it's clearly failing in all kinds of ways. I mean, not just the mess around the referendum, but the fact that as a country we're just not getting to grips with really big challenges like housing and how we deal with social care and rising crime and the future of education. And we need parties that have a positive vision, can get themselves organised and replace the rather moribund two-party system that we have at the moment.
And then I just want to ask you, just to close, we often ask people to suggest questions on social media for our guests, and I couldn't resist asking you this one from Barry HH on Twitter. He says, ask Vince if he's gutted he's jacking it in now the Lib Dems did quite well in the locals. Are you a little bit gutted?
No, my plans haven't changed. I'm expecting that my party will have a new leader before the summer break. I've always intended that we should have an orderly succession. I'm very happy to pass on the baton, but I will be leading the party through the European election. That's very clear. And if the government fails a no confidence motion in the next few weeks, as it could well happen, and we have a general election, then I'll be leading our party into that too.
Okay, Sir Vince Cable, thank you.